It's 8 o'clock, time for the Airport Authority's meeting to come to order. Agendas are published, and we'll start with item number 1, approve the minutes of the regular meeting. I'd entertain a motion. Everybody's seen those?
So moved.
Okay, the October 17th meeting is motion. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, approve airport vouchers totaling $95,958.58.
Motion.
Okay,
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on any of those items? Hearing none, call for roll.
Lynn.
Aye.
Hingham.
Aye.
Lind.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Halbert.
Aye. Okay, next we have a received proposed contract from Mead and Hunt for the car rental lot. Jeff, are you up on that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have that right here. Sean had asked me to put together a proposal to reconstruct this rental car ready lot on the west side of the terminal building. Just because it hasn't been touched, I think literally since the 1980s or early 90s, and we had to work with the contractor to do some patching out there this summer, just because there were some holes in the pavement surface that, obviously were a hazard. So we're going to look at that, and then also while we're doing that, we're going to look at the other rental lot up here, just to do routine pavement maintenance, just to seize that opportunity while we have a project going on. So the fee for that was, proposed fee is $21,100. It could be a little less because I've also included some time to do some rehab work down here in the pay lots, but if SP Plus is doing that, that would be their responsibility, not the airport authority's responsibility. So the fee could be reduced a little bit. So.
Okay, any question?
What's the timeline?
We would design this winter, bid it this spring, and construct in summer of 2020.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. You may as well stay there because I believe you're up next on Sun Electric.
Approve the contract.
Oh.
Call for the question.
So we have a question on
These are separate.
motion. Okay, you have, I don't have that. Okay. All right, so we need to approve the contract that Mead and Hunt has proposed. Motion?
So moved.
And
Second.
Second?
Sure.
Okay, any other discussion on this contract? All right, call for vote, roll call.
Lynn.
Aye.
Hingham.
Aye.
Lind. Yes. Clark.
Aye.
Halbert.
Aye. Okay, the change order, next one up.
All right. Down here on the south general aviation area where UPS is operating, the airport authority had received some bids earlier this summer from both Sun Electric and Moorhead Electric to put in some additional light fixtures. And they are on order right now, and they're supposed to be here by the end of the month. One of the things that they discovered when they're out there is the fixtures that they're putting in, they don't fit on the existing bullhorns, and they need wider bullhorns to be able to rotate and aim the lights to provide the proper illumination on there. So they had requested an additional $2,900 because that wasn't in the original scope of work. So that would bring their total contract to a amount of $51,900. And the other bid that was received from Moorhead Electric was right at about $59,000. So, that it's a reasonable cost and request for the change order.
Okay, motion to approve the change order, okay.
Second.
Motion and a second, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Lynn.
Aye.
Hingham.
Aye.
Lind. Aye. Park.
Aye.
Halbert.
Aye. All right, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
The receive airport concession disadvantaged business enterprise goal.
That was in your packet, so they were due in October to the FAA. It was approved. for airport concession disadvantaged business enterprise, so that's our car rentals, gift shop, restaurant, parking lot, the game room, things of that nature. So we approved a goal from 2020 through 2022 of 1% using race-conscious methods. If you want to look at the entire document, it's about 30, 40 pages long that they go through there. And we work with our concessionaires each year to try and identify disadvantaged businesses that they can purchase goods and services from. We get some cooperation down from the car rental agencies, looking at, trying to increase what the restaurant and the gift shop do. But a lot of them that we identify don't want to go through the certification process with the North Dakota Department of Transportation. So, but we do document that and keep working with them. So any goods and services that can be purchased, we get credit for, and then there's an annual report that goes out to the FA for that to show them how we're trying to meet our goals. We will put a public advertisement in the newspaper sometime here in the next month to announce what the goal is for concessionaires. There's a completely separate goal for FA-assisted contracts. We work with the State Aeronautics Commission in Mead Hunt to put that together, and that doesn't come due now for another couple of years yet, so I think we're still good on that.
And that's an FAA requirement.
That's an FAA requirement, that's correct. So this is just for your information.
Okay, thank you, Sean. The next item is an update on the SRE building, and Terry Stroll cannot be here today, so we will postpone that till next meeting. Okay, Jeff, I think you're up again on the cargo ramp. Wood.
So, me and Hunt is working on the cargo ramp project with the Airport Authority. And what it is basically this cargo apron we brought all the way out to County Green 10. And one of the big components of that is de-icing fluid capture and treatment and disposal, so the Airport Authority can maintain its compliance with its stormwater permit. So where we're at right now is we're in the final stages of putting together technical memo. We should have that finished up this week. And what it is it's a technical memo on the capture and disposal of that de-icing fluid, and it identifies the problem, alternatives to handle the glycol, preferred alternatives, costs, all that kind of thing. And what we need, the next steps would be to bring that report forward to the Airport Authority, bring it forward to the wastewater treatment plant, because that glycol fluid will be discharged to the sewage line. And then also we have to engage both UPS and FedEx, because the capture of that fluid directly impacts their operations. So once we get through that, we can finish up our plans and specifications, bid it out this spring, and get started with construction.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
How do you capture that? When it's a flat surface like that, how does that work?
It's actually not flat. There's it'll be graded from north to south, and then into inlets that go into a glycol sewer. So
Almost all of the ramps have drainage gradient in them.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Thanks, Jeff. Number 8 is recognition and introduction of Pat and Jim Sweeney, because they were inducted into the UND Aerospace Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, they're in Las Vegas at a conference.
Actually, they're representing the airport.
But they're representing us out there, and we just wanted to congratulate them. Of course, they run a business on the north side, and it's a great honor for them and for us to have them inducted into that. So we wanted to recognize them. Okay, airport construction security update.
Construction of South GA, Jeff already gave you an update on that with Sun Electric. Security-wise, Darren, they did finish the installation of one machine in the EDS room, or both?
Oh, what's that?
For the EDS room?
Yeah, they were done, yeah.
Yeah, so the TSA upgraded the conveyor space and the machines. When you're behind the ticket counters, your bags go into the centralized room, and they upgraded at least. Are both of them done, or just one?
Yep.
Both are done. So it allows them to take golf bags and some bigger bags and stuff like that. So they're still tweaking some of the conveyor systems that go into the area, but it seems to be working fine. So that's the only update. I don't think Mr. Negron was able to make it today from the TSA, so
No, I don't see him.
that's all we got on that.
Okay, we'll go on to the next item. Would you turn on the computer? Next item, discuss the proposed memorandum of understanding with the City of Fargo. I'm going to have a handout here, and I don't think I've got enough, but at least I'll have some for each table and some and board members. New one.
Copy that.
I'm going to ask the board members that if you have questions to hold until the end, till I get through the briefing, and then we'll have discussion. All done? All right. A little history to start with. In 1969, the City Commission created the Airport Authority.
Do we hold our questions, or what would you like us to do?
Yes, hold
Okay.
the questions till the end.
Okay.
So you can write on your briefing slides and annotate them and refer to them later. Okay, and in this agreement in 1969, as you can see, it says that the Airport Authority shall assume full responsibility with no limits granted by the city. And that's the opening part of that agreement. This agreement was then in, come on. Technology's wonderful, except when it doesn't work.
Yep.
Was amended in 1970 because it had the original agreement had a 10-year expiration date, and that expiration date was eliminated. In high school and in school, when you have something that you're going to see again, they call it a foot stomper. Here's a foot stomper. The City of Fargo did not retain any powers unto itself in this agreement. This was agreed to by the city in 1969 and amended in 70. Okay. Next slide, again, talking about history. The city then implied that they would follow the Century Code 2-06. This is the Airport Authorities Act. It's an 11-page document that governs the running and management of all airport authorities in the state. There are 89 airports in the state, and 84 of those have airport authorities. Some highlights out of that Century Code. A governing body of a municipality shall be, by resolution, may be created, and we did here in the city of Fargo. I would also point out that it says how it can be dissolved. That's also in that code. But the devil is in the details if you're going to dissolve an airport authority. There are some costs that will be coming if that were to be done. Okay. Again, more highlights of the North Dakota Century Code. If you look here, I've highlighted in red one portion here that is rather important and at the heart of a disagreement with the city now. And it says that An authority may employ an executive director, secretary, technical experts, and other officers, agents, and employees, permanent, temporary, and shall being highlighted by me, which in legal terms means must, and must determine their qualifications, duties, and compensation. Okay? Another foot stomper. That's pretty clear, I think. Again, the airport authority is the employer and has all of the normal rights and privileges that an employer would have. Again, North Dakota Century Code, some more highlights. I put them in there for reference. Added emphasis by Don Haney. This one just says that we cannot change any rules, regulations that we have to live under. Some more history. Okay, as I mentioned, the Airport Authority was created in 1969, so for 50 years, an airport authority has operated here with a relationship with the city, and by and large, a good relationship. So as we look at this, I go, okay, what has changed in the last few years? Or probably more importantly, who has changed in the last few years? And it's who's on this commission and who's on the airport authority. This authority has all been appointed by the current mayor, and we have been approved by the city commission. So again, looking at the highlights in here, it says any monies that are earned on the airport must stay on the airport and cannot revert to the governing body that implemented it. I'll skip along here to another this is the oath of office that all of us voting board members had to take. And I want to highlight the last line. That's mine, that's the one, but every board member here did this. We would perform the duties of said office according to the law. Okay? All of us agreed to do that. Now, I want to digress a little bit into deregulation. In 1978, the federal government deregulated the airline industry. And what that did was it changed us from a governmental model of running an airport like a government, like a city government, to an entrepreneurial model where we're run like a business. And because we had to change with deregulation, this entrepreneurial business model means that we must be market-based, competitive with regard to obtaining airlines, hiring, compensation practices. We are not just like a city. We are a business model and versus a governmental model. Okay? Again, an important in how we approach what we do out here. Now, in 1990, there was an Attorney General review of the Airport Authorities Act that was, it was not for Fargo, but it was actually in municipality of Pettinger and Bowman, and in it, the Attorney General states that no mill levy collected by an airport for airport purposes can be used for non-airport purposes. Again, reiterating that monies have to stay on an airport that are earned on an airport. Now, in this review, I went too far here. Got to back up.
Just click previous.
No, I
There are no more bags.
You could do it backwards.
yeah, but it won't.
No, one more back.
No, one more back.
Yeah.
Yeah. In May of 82, there was another Attorney General opinion that stated that airport authorities are a public body separate from the city. In other words, we're a political subdivision, just like the Park District is here in Fargo. And it concurs in 2-06. And the airport authority has all the rights except those that were not retained by the city. There were no rights retained by the city in the '69 agreement. So when we hear that city workers or airport workers are city employees, I go, no, they did not retain that privilege in the 1969 agreement. Okay, so just this July, we did another request and went through Legislative Council to ask the Attorney General and legislative attorneys about our role and legal responsibilities. And it says that an authority may not acquire or take over any airport owned or controlled by another authority, municipality, or public agency. In other words, we, even though we reside here real close to the West Fargo Airport, we can't take over the airport in West Fargo without their approval. So, in the last line in here, it says this argument also would be consistent to a municipality taking over an airport authority. You must have their approval. Now, okay, continuing on. Here's a certificate of operation, and this is an extremely important document. Without this document, there is no airplane that has 30 seats or more that can land at Hector Field. This airport certificate is issued to the Municipal Airport Authority as owner and operator of Hector International Airport. And this certificate is non-transferable. So the next regulation here is Code of Federal Regulations 14, Chapter I. This is just a two-page document that governs issuing of that certificate. And on the bottom center paragraph there, it says, in the event of a local or a state dispute regarding sponsorship, operation of an airport, the FAA will apply the policy set out below in Section 4. Well, here is Section 4. And it says that parties should seek technical assistance from the FAA as early as practical if there were going to be a change in sponsorship. If parties are encouraged to wait if there is a dispute until that dispute has been resolved before submitting an application to the FAA. Okay. If we have a dispute with the city, the FAA will not accept an application for sponsorship of this airport as long as there is a dispute. So you can't even apply for that certificate until any dispute is resolved to the FAA's satisfaction in to their satisfaction, and preferably in writing. So, in summary, if the city and the city commission dissolves the airport authority, the minute they dissolve the airport authority, airline operations must cease at this airport until you have a new certificate. I sent this letter and hand-delivered it to the FAA in our ADO office in Bismarck, stating that we currently are in negotiations with the city on an MOU, and we have some disputes. We are in dispute over some management, oversight, and funds. The State Aeronautics Commission is also aware of this, as well as the Attorney General and the FAA. Now, I think one of the reasons that we're in this misunderstanding between the airport authority and the city is that in 1969, when the airport authority was created, there was a contract with the city to provide services. So the city has provided accounting, software, payroll, human resources, technology, IT support, banking. Some investment services, and it started at a rate of $30,000 per year to the payment to the city as our vendor for doing those services. It has since gone up from 30 to 50 to 90,000, and it's currently, and it was approved just last week by the FAA to go to $107,000 a year. So the board has looked at this and said, well, with some comments from some others in the city, that maybe we should outsource or look for another vendor that would do a couple of things. Maybe we could improve what we're getting, for either price or other things, and it would also help get rid of this idea that the airport authority, our employees are city employees. So the relationship over the years with the city, I think, has again been, by and large, a great relationship. We've had this one disagreement over final approval of hiring, firing, and employees. This is some of the things that we have done with the city. There's another slide here that says, you know, we keep the mayor informed of issues, emergency situations, and city commissioners, and the citizens. So in looking at this, I also tried to say, so is the airport not being run well? Is there some other issue that has come up with the city? So here, let me give you a few insights into how this airport is run. Since 1983, we've had over $97 million in grants. That's grant money that has been spent on facilities out here. Last year, right up there behind the camera, we were named the #1 small airport of the year in the United States. All air cargo in the last 2 years, we've added 160 full-time jobs with UPS and FedEx. Our Fargo Jet Center is named one of the top fixed base operators in the nation. We've built 2 new hangars on the airport since last year, with a new one in the planning phase, and quite frankly, we just started another discussion yesterday on doing some more. Our executive director, Sean, was named the Airport Executive Director of the Year for this region. The Air National Guard operates as one of only 2 in the United States units to fly the MQ-9 Reaper out of a civilian field. We have a large number of corporate aircraft, to include air ambulance that serves our citizens. If you look at the the military that's on the field, we have over 1,500 people that drill and work and operate out of this airport. The Happy Hooligans are the 7th largest employer in the city of Fargo. We have 7 air carriers, 24 passenger flights per day, and 18 cargo flights per day. We are busy 24 hours a day out here. You come out here at 3:25 in the morning and you cannot believe how much activity there is on this airport. We had an issue a while back with Delta Global Services last year with de-icing, and we found that they were way underpaying people. So remember, I said we are now a government-based but a business-based entity. So we went after Delta Global Services, who services United, Delta, and Frontier. They provide all the gate personnel, baggage servicing, parking aircraft, de-icing, and with help from others in the city. I see Charlie Johnson's here. He helped with this. We did basically a carrot and a stick. You know, we could only beat them so hard, or they would pull out and use their airplanes to go to other markets. But we needed to get this fixed. And it is now, I believe, fixed. They have upped their salary range by about $5 an hour. They've got more employees. They've got new de-icing equipment. And United Airlines has decided they're going to do their own ground handling. So United Airlines now has new employees starting next month. It'll be United Union employees. They're bringing in their own equipment. They're bringing in 2 new de-icing trucks, and it worked very well. And we managed to turn that around. Now we'll see how it works this winter. But again, as a business model, competition is a good thing. And so we look at Frontier and American have just announced nonstop service to Phoenix Sky Harbor. Frontier announced it one day, and a day later, American announced it. That's what we're dealing with now in a business model. So anyway, a good outcome there. Our annual FAA certification, this was completed just last week. And here is the letter from the FAA that renews our certificate that I showed you a little bit ago. And in red it says, "We commend you for your procedures you're using in your day-to-day operation of the airport. The appearance of the airport indicates they are effective." Just last week from the FAA. Okay, here's another performance chart. You can see where we're at with air cargo. Obviously, FedEx, UPS is driving that, and as we get into the holiday season, that's only going to continue to go up. Our passengers, in-plane passengers, you can see we had a dip there for the recession when we lost them, but we're on the rebound, and I believe we will hit again our high for passenger service. So future opportunities, we need to, again, discuss the MOU here this morning that has been proposed by the city. And we have decided to look not only at the city's offer of being our vendor, but to go out and explore other vendors and see what might be out there, so we could make a value judgment based on the competitive nature of who is providing what. And that would be in personnel services, banking, IT, communication services that we are now getting from the city. And we have some. So we'll discuss those later on after the briefing. There are some issues with hiring a vendor, outside vendors, with timing. Timing is a big deal. It takes a while for a company to start up processes with payroll and the like. And also, no matter what we do for a vendor, we still need to cooperate with the city, because the city, on the Century Code, we still have mill levy and bonding relationship that must be maintained according to Century Code. So just maybe a question or two. If someone says, well, if I don't use the airport, if this change, will there be any impact in my property taxes if you change vendors? Well, no, because property tax are not used for operations and maintenance. They're used for a construction and other upgrades, but not day-to-day operation. And the mill levy allowance, in the state statute, we're allowed 4 mills. We go to the city, get approval for that. We only use 2 mills. We have never, I don't believe, ever used 4. And so the airport authority receives 2 mills from the city of Fargo, which they do get through property taxes. But those are used, like I said, for capital improvements, water, sanitary, sewer, and those type of projects. Mill levies are not used to support the day-to-day operation of the airport. Okay, this is a letter that I just received on October 11th from the mayor. I will highlight the last 2 paragraphs, because as I said, we're in negotiation with the city, and the mayor states in here that the employees of the MAA are city employees, a non-negotiable fact, not in dispute. And the city of Fargo will not provide a la carte services to the airport. In other words, if we wanted to do payroll or human services downtown and retain the retirement plan the way Park District does, that's not an option. And he reiterates it again on the bottom: one complete package is not an a la carte menu. That's it. Line in the sand. So I'm disappointed in the negotiation, because I would say, if you look at a definition of negotiation, it describes a process between individuals that's intended to reach a compromise agreement to the satisfaction of both parties. The point of negotiating is to reach an agreement rather than achieve victory. This is from uslegal.com. I also looked at an employer. An employer is a person or entity who does the hiring and of another that performs a service under an express or implied agreement, and has control or the right to control over that manner and means, as clearly outlined in 2-6. That's the airport authority. So, as we move to the last slide here, Uh, I think the next steps at this moment, we need to decide as the board, what is the most prudent strategy to move forward? What is the best for our users, the citizens of the surrounding area, our employees, vendors, stakeholders, you know, the FAA, governing entities, TSA, Department of Commerce, Department of Defense. We have a large military presence, while following century code and statutes and regulations. I invite the board members for any comment on that. Any comment?
So I agree that, I mean, it's very clear that the law states that we are the employer of the employees that work at the city. And this letter that the mayor had sent on October 11th says, I state that this employees of the Municipal Airport Authority are city employees, a non-negotiable fact that is not in dispute. And that's clearly not the case, because Century Code states that the airport employees are employees of the Airport Authority, Municipal Airport Authority, and we use the city as a vendor for writing their paychecks and their health insurance and their retirement and so forth. And he had said that if we decide to go outside of the city for those services, that he would not allow the airport employees to participate in the retirement system and with the healthcare benefits. And that just seems like that is a hostile kind of action to force our hand into getting what he wants to get. So that's all I wanted to add to that.
I think what's most important as an end user, the public, they just look at this as government stuff. I look at it as, how is it going to impact our Joe Blow citizen? If, on slide 19, if for some reason they dissolve the Municipal Airport Authority, at 5 o'clock, at 5:01, all planes will be diverted. Nothing will come and leave. That impacts me. I mean, I've got a trip coming up. And so I think the FAA has oversight over, they really give us, they're the ones who tell us and have to prove everything. And we go according to, Century Code. But that one was the scariest one for me when I found that out.
Okay, any other board member? Okay, Commissioner.
I just want to state that that's false, that the FAA would not halt service. We've looked into it. If you want to have our city attorney speak about that, that's a false statement, so I'd appreciate it if you would retract that.
I will not retract that because that's what I have been told by the FAA. So if it's in dispute, which we said it is, and you apply for a certificate, it takes the dispute being settled, then it takes anywhere from a year to 2 years to get a new certificate.
But the FAA does not halt service. That's false.
We cannot land an airplane
No, that's
without
not
that
true.
certificate.
If you check with the FAA, everything continues as it is. They want us to resolve the issue, but they don't halt service. That's a false statement. That's trying to scare people.
No,
It's a
not
false
nothing-
statement. I
nothing
can have
was-
our attorney, we checked with the FAA. We verified
I think I
it.
can help with this if you
Hey, Eric,
don't mind. You have a slide, I think it's your fifth slide, it has that dissolution language. So you're right in saying that if somehow a dissolution occurred overnight, that would create problems. That's not how it would happen. And we tried to explain that.
What slide was it?
The slide is the Century Code that you referenced
number
that
5.
talks about dissolution having a few steps. You're exactly right. I mean, one thing is if the city if the city commission were to make a determination about dissolution, as recognized in the most recent Attorney General opinion, by the way, it would require payment of all the debts, and I don't think there are many debts other than current debts of the airport. But it requires a transfer back, because you own all of the land, right?
Right.
If dissolution were to occur, it would require a transfer back to the city of all the land and all the property owned by the airport. There's no question, and you know, we're well aware of this particular entry that was just up there, the FAA guidance that's provided. It would be a process that would take some time. It would take some time. And dissolution wouldn't occur until there was an orderly process for that occurring. The FAA would be fully involved in it, and absolutely the operating certificate is a key component of that. There's nothing the city would ever do to interfere with that operating certificate. If there were a dissolution, it would have to be an orderly process where there's a handoff with the consent of the FAA. They do have language in there about how they don't even start until there's some kind of an agreement in place, or some kind of, I guess we can't come to some kind of a coordinated effort between the airport authority and the city. I guess you have to resort then to the courts to assist in that process. We would hope that wouldn't be necessary. And again, this is just an if here. We're talking about a hypothetical, but you know, I don't think there should be any concern about somehow jeopardizing this operating certificate. The city would not do that. And again, if there were dissolution, it would be an orderly process that would result in an orderly handover and orderly dissolution. Again, that would allow the orderly turnover of an operating certificate to the city, if that were to occur.
Without that certificate, there can be no airlines landing and operating off this airport.
Right.
That is exactly what I have been told by the FAA, sitting in their office in Bismarck on a teleconference with their lawyer in Minneapolis.
I don't think there's any dispute about that.
Yeah.
No, nobody's challenging that at all.
Now, what you are saying is different than having a city commission dissolve the airport authority on one evening without one of those in place.
Yeah, that wouldn't
Already.
happen. That would not happen.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
that's
that
what
wouldn't
we've been
happen.
threatened with.
No, you haven't. You have not been threatened with that. No, that's not correct. The last time I was in a meeting with you, we explained that. It would have to be an orderly process if it were to occur. Again, as an if. If it were to occur, there would have to be a cooperative process. We'd like to think we'd get to a cooperative process, and now we'd have to go through some other process. But there would have to be an orderly process for dissolution that would be hand in hand with the FAA, so that there can be a transition of this very thing, the operating certificate. So there'd be no interruption in service.
Right, and they will not accept an application as long as there is a dispute. So the dispute, as we see it, has to be settled before they would accept an application
Right.
for a new site.
Yep, no, there would have to be an agreement of sorts as to how you move forward. Or again, I guess if you can't come to an agreement, then you have to resort, unfortunately, to the court system, but it'd be one of those two things. I'd like to think that there would be some kind of a process that we'd identify if there were a decision like that by the city commission.
I think part of this too, the dissolving is, and I'm not sure if this was that public meeting, but I'm not sure if it's been in the media, but we've been told, well, we can fire you guys. And haven't we heard that?
Yes.
And I think it was actually in one of the public meetings. So when you say, well, we could just fire you guys, basically you'd be dissolving everything if you fired all of us, and you can't do that anyway, according to city ordinance. So I just wanted to know, that's why the perception was that the city has said, well, we can fire all of you anyway. So that's why it came to, if it's everything that's kind of been said gave me the impression, well, you don't want to do it right now. And so it's nice to hear that it would be an orderly process after the dispute had been settled.
Okay, we're discussing proposed MOUs, so I have copies of two of those in front of me, of the proposals. I would entertain a motion to either accept or reject from someone of the current MOUs as proposed by the city.
I move that we reject the MOU as proposed by the city.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any?
And that would include June 10th and September 19th proposals?
Yes.
Just want to be clear on that.
Yeah. They are almost identical. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I would like to say, you know, we've had several negotiations come through the city and through the airport authority, and you know, the city had said this is our proposed memorandum of understanding, and that said this is what you shall do, and it listed it all off, and we went through and we said we don't agree with this, we don't agree with this, and sent it back, and then it came back to us again. It was almost identical, and all of our disputes were negated there or were ignored. And then we did the same thing several times, and it just seems to come back with there is no negotiation going on at all, and we've spent 2 years on this, and
First
it has
meeting
gone nowhere.
was
And it
over a
is
year and a half ago.
and at this point he says, you know, this is a complete package, not an a la carte option menu, right here on his letter, and it is a take it or leave it, and this is what I'm giving you, and if you don't take it, I'm going to not let your employees be in the retirement system. I'm going to take away their health insurance, and so there's big ramifications for our employees, and it feels very hostile. And for that, I feel that there's no way that this is a negotiation. This is, you will take what I want, and I will take whatever I want, and that's it. And so I don't find any way that we can agree at this point with the current negotiation that has gone past over the last 2 years, even though there is precedent for the park district employees to still participate in the retirement system, healthcare system too.
Yep.
Or just
Just
retirement. Okay. So I mean, there is precedent for them to stay in the existing structures, and he's like, nope, we're gonna remove them from those structures, and so I find it very hostile, this negotiation that's going on, and we have very few options in this case. But I do believe that if we do go with another vendor to do our human resources and our payroll and our IT support, we also kind of spread that business around to local businesses that doesn't need to reside in the city. The city doesn't need any more business. Okay, that is all paid for out of taxpayer money. If we dissolve our relationship for those vendor services with the city, we actually improve the businesses within Fargo, and we keep our business and our money local where it belongs. So,
Any other comments from board members? Call for the question. Do a roll call vote, please.
Lynn?
Aye.
Engen?
Aye.
Lind?
aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Hellman?
Aye. All right. Number 11. Maybe before we leave the subject, I ask Commissioner Pepcorn for can you explain to this board what it is that the city is trying to fix?
No, I'm done. Thanks for having me.
Number 11 is to consider the appropriate responses to service providers submitted proposals for IT, banking, and PEO services.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Did Mr. Pepcorn say he was done resigning as the city's liaison to the airport authority, or he was done with the meeting?
We'll have to clarify that with him.
Off for the course.
You know, one of the things that I thought was interesting, first, once we get proposals, and I know we've gotten some, it's interesting to note that according to the FAA, we are, or is it state century code, we are supposed to have a separate bank account. And right now, if I'm understanding right, our bank, our money is in with the city's money, and we have a separate line item. Is that correct?
They're commingled.
They're
accounted
commingled.
for
Okay.
separately.
So this would help us move towards
Yeah.
being as clear and following every detail of the law.
Okay, we do have some issues with timing.
Okay.
I know that we received only one bid from Pro Resources,
We're both here.
and they are here today. But they need to do a year end and start up in January. They need about 6 months to get
6 weeks.
or 6 months, yeah, 6 weeks to get this going. So we're pushing that with the holidays. So do you want to, Boyd, do you want any more discussion? Should we call on?
I thought the
Pro Res-
proposal was very thorough. I thought the services they provided there were some services that were above and beyond what we could get with our current vendor.
Agreed.
I agree.
Okay, I would entertain a motion if
So moved.
Second.
move in a second. Any other discussion?
What's the motion?
And it's
To approve Pro Resources
for the
for the human resources services
and payroll.
and payroll, yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
No discussion.
Hearing none, call for the question. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Hingham?
Aye.
Lind?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Hogan?
Aye.
Dave Meadows here for
Yeah.
health insurance?
The next is, we've received bids for banking, but I don't think, I'm not quite ready
Not quite.
to make up my mind on that one yet. So we will prolong that or postpone that till the next meeting if we can. And we also
Mr.
have.
Chairman?
Yeah.
Who were the vendors, the list of vendors that submitted
We-
proposals?
For banking, we received from Bell Bank,
First International.
Bremer.
Bremer.
First International, and US Bank. So those were the only four that
Yeah.
responded to the public ad that we had put
So
out.
we did not get a proposal from the city's vendor, Wells Fargo.
It was emailed days afterwards, so it's tardy. But basically, they offer the same contract that they currently have with the
Okay.
city.
Okay. But it was past the due date?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they missed the public ad.
Okay.
Tom Harkless, you can get the email. So.
Okay.
Health insurance.
Yeah, and so we also have been in discussion with Dave Meadow and Dave. Oh, there he is back there. About health insurance, providing health insurance. There's currently an organization in the state. It's a insurance reserve fund. North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund, which we are a member because we do hold policies with them. And that entity is looking at increasing or starting a health insurance plan. There are many schools, cities, municipalities that have insurance with them. So about, I think, Dave, you said it was last March, I believe, they were going to start looking at health insurance plans for everyone in the state that would qualify. There would be about 3,000 employees that could be on this plan, with 7,000 with family members. So it would be a very large pool. The board just voted to continue that just a few weeks ago.
Their board?
What?
Their board.
Their board.
Okay.
And their board, one of their board members is Scott Peterson.
Chad Peterson.
What? Chad Peterson, from the city Cass County Commissioner. And he said they are going forward with it, and they hope to have this in place. They had hoped by July. And Dave, if you could verify or bring us up to date on any of that, that would be great.
Well, every area and the IRF has set up a committee to study the issue. What they're looking at doing is setting up an association health plan for all governmental entities that get insurance through them. It is not a done deal that they're going to do it, but it does look very favorable at this point. We helped conduct a study, and that was the 3,000 employees, 7,000 total that signed up as being interested in the plan. And we have been in communication with all the insurance companies. While it is not a done deal, I think it's something that is likely to happen. And if it does, it may happen as soon as July 1st, as you said. But there's some indication that we may have multiple anniversary dates to coincide with the needs of different entities. Many of the school districts, of course, prefer an October 1st anniversary date because of teacher contracting. So 7/1 is the earliest. It would be a comprehensive plan where an entity within the NDRF plan could have access to virtually any insurance plan that's available to any other group. So everybody gets a choice of what they plan to offer. So something very similar to what you're on now could be offered. The difficulty is getting there, because if you leave the city plan before such a plan is set up, being less than 50 employees, you would have to go under what are called the metallic plans. Healthcare reform in 2010 said you either have a bronze, silver, gold, or platinum plan. Those are different levels of coverage. A platinum plan is designed actuarially to pay between 88 and 92% of claims. A gold plan, 10% less, and so on down the line. Your plan does resemble a platinum plan. The difficulty with small group plans under 50 is price. Because of the fact that there is no underwriting and everyone is accepted regardless of claims experience, and there is no looking at claims or health, the pricing is much higher for small groups than it is for large groups. And that is a problem. The best approach, as much as I would love to write more insurance, the best approach, if possible, would be to somehow negotiate staying on the health plan until such time as there was another large group plan available. But if that's not possible, of course, a metallic plan is a stopgap in between what you're on now and moving to some other form of large group plan. Other airport authorities have contacted me, and there is that possibility as well, if NDRF does not go ahead, that you could have all the airport authorities join together having an association. So we could do something by January 1st if that's what the necessity is. January 1st would be the best switchover date because of the deductibles and out-of-pocket maximums for employees. You don't want to have that happen twice in a year. But we would need approximately 6 weeks as well to get that set up if it were needed. Any questions?
How about COBRA?
Governmental entities are not subject to COBRA regulations. So there'd be no requirement that the city would have to grant extension.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Well, we know one thing, we're not gonna try and put any additional costs on our employees for healthcare.
Healthcare is going to be expensive, as Dave said, with the platinum plan, but we put together a chart based on the 26 full-time employees, and went through, and the plan would be is what you're paying today is what you would continue to pay, and the airport authority would pick up the balance of it. So it figures out to, on average, about 11% on the employee, 89% on the airport authority, until such time that NATURF hopefully comes forward with their plan. The platinum plan, I believe, if you compare to what we have in place now Blue Cross under the city versus the platinum plan, appears to be a much better plan, but it is more expensive. The other thing that we will spend some time on that's currently not available to employees is health savings accounts. So as we go through an educational campaign with employees, the number of employees that might join up and sign on to a health savings account that's currently not offered. It's very popular in Grand Forks with the airport up there. It lowers the employee cost and it lowers the employer cost. So that's something that we'll also be pursuing as well with the vendor is setting up health savings accounts. It's a great option.
It's a great option. I gave them the statistics. A minimum, if you set up a health savings account, would be $350. Could go up to several $1,000s depending who's insured on the plan. So that really helps. I've had one for years.
Anything with IT and stuff, Darren's been working with some local vendors that we engaged informally, such as SNL Computer, Network Center, High Point, Consolidated Communications, and there's still some things to sort out there, but we're not really in a rush to move forward with that. We need to sort out some more details on some of those fees there. As far as accounting, we've been following Grand Forks and Sioux Falls Airport and some other airports. It appears that QuickBooks Pro Online is the most popular accounting program for a lot of the small airports. We're a real small business, so when you look at that option there, we're going to meet with an accountant tomorrow to go through and take a look at what we're currently doing and how that may transpose into a different software program. You can get the software for like $40 to $60 a month, so it works well for a number of airports around the country, and I'm sure that it'll work well for us if we decide to go down that road. So that's all I got right now.
Okay, any other things? Next meeting, 12 November.
Check out the calendar there.
I am, with any luck, I'll be here, but with any luck, I won't, because I'll have killed an elk, and I'll be out trying to drag that off the mountain. So,
So what's the date? November
Next
12th?
12.
Okay.
So if I'm not here, Andy, you'll share it. Okay. All right, anything else? Hearing none, meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, John.